All right, I got the signal that we're live, online. Good afternoon and welcome to the business meeting for Longmont Calvary. Let's open with a word of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this church. We thank you that you have sustained us, Lord, for over 60 years, almost 70 years, Lord, and that your hand is upon us. We thank you that through it all, Lord, you have blessed. I thank you for each person here today, Lord, and pray that we would all be filled with your Spirit, that we would be wise, but we would also be kind, and that we would be united by your Holy Spirit, that as you want us to go into the future, Lord, you would bless us and bring us together. Make us one body, Lord, that seeks you and seeks to be your light in this world. We thank you for each one of those who have a part in today's meeting and pray that you would bless them, Lord. And we just give you the honor and the glory for all that you do. In the precious and wonderful name of Jesus, we pray these things. Amen. All right. Well, we do not have the Tracy Carson show today. For those of you who do not know, Damon and Tracy's son Hayden is getting married today. So you have to put up with me reading Tracy's minutes from the last meeting and then David Meeker to do the financial report. So here's the minutes of September 18th, 2022. Brad Harvey called the meeting to order at 2 p.m., beginning with a word of prayer. Tracy Carson, church clerk, read the minutes from the previous meeting of June 12th, 2022. The minutes were approved as read. Tracy Carson, treasurer, gave the trustees' report on 2022 financials through August. Printed copies of the reports were available. Rob Mount gave the Deacons Fund report. 145 needs have been year to date. Through the Deacons Fund and man-to-man, a crew completed a kitchen redo due to severe water damage. There are a lot of single moms making requests, and the balance in the Deacons Fund is at a low point. Paul Faribaugh, facilities overseer, mentioned the items in the building that have needs. The HVAC system compressors needed to change over from hot to cold have leaks. The walk-in freezer is down, needed to be de-iced. All LED lights have been replaced. The roof will be an issue as we move into fall. The new member candidates were presented with no discussion and a voice vote with no dissenting votes. The new member covenant was read. The candidates are Ashton and Kara Van Heemst, Craig and Michaela Aiken, Anna Terrazas, Lori Bickley, Brad and Nancy Crona. Brad Harvey gave the elder update. They meet twice a week for prayer, praying for the needs on the prayer sheet, but also asking for any additional requests. The elders work with Garrett as a liaison between staff and deacons. They are working on additional listening in and listening out sessions in the near future. The elders are also working on an accountability project to keep elders' lives in line. Garrett Nates, lead pastor, expressed true joy in having landed at Calvary. They have been warmly accepted. Staff has been extraordinary. He thanked Jamie for being the interim. He is excited for the future. His discussions with staff have been to discover the vision to determine where the Lord is leading us as a church. How do we meet the unique needs of people in our culture? Garrett is up to speed on what has been happening at Calvary over the past couple of years, including the North property discussions, holes in staffing, specifically worship team leadership, and a hole in church administration with Gabe's departure. Those in attendance formed small groups to pray, and then Garrett closed the meeting in prayer at 2:50 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Tracy Carson, church clerk. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? If not, they will stand approved as read. And now we will go to the ministry staff reports, and I think Garrett is going to introduce the lead staff.
Thank you all for being here on a afternoon where you could be doing many other things. And so thank you. As I said on one note, the last thing we kind of want to do on a December is go to a church meeting. There's lots of other great things you could be doing. So thank you for your dedication, for your commitment to being here. And I want to introduce you to the ministry staff. I know you probably know them. You know them in different capacities. Maybe some of you know them very little. But they are integral to our ministry here, and they are really important to me, and I love working with them. We meet every week. I help them do their job. They help me do my job. And so this is a great team of people that God has put together here to work with. And so I've asked them to do like a 2-minute, if they could, snapshot of the past year and any sort of teasers that they want to give you for the next year of ministry ahead. And so I'm going to start with Kathy. Kathy oversees our children's ministries and women's ministries this past year, and then we'll be moving dedicated into our children's ministries in 2023. Kathy.
So Tim Hanlon mentioned me this morning in a sermon, and I'm trying to get him straightened out, but I don't think I'm getting anywhere. So I'm Kathy Fadel, if you don't know who I am, and yes, this past year I've been director of women's and children's ministries, and it's been such a joy. It's hard to give like one story out of each thing, so I'm going to give like really short stories about a couple different ministries, and I'm going to start with the women's ministries. In MOPS, which is Mothers of Preschoolers, we've had a lady come, and she had gone to church as a child, but it wasn't until she started attending our MOPS group did she understand the gospel message. She became a believer, and eventually her whole family now is following Christ. Sent, that's our group of small groups of women, and they get together to support and encourage and nurture, be transparent with each other, led by experienced women. And one of the younger women said this is where her connections are. And she doesn't really understand why, but she just loves meeting with her group. And we know it's probably because of the connections, and you feel cared for and loved for. And so we're grateful for that. We have a Moms in Prayer group that meets regularly, and the women love the focus on praying scripture. And we've seen God dramatically change the heart of one of the moms towards her son-in-law. Teacup Bible Studies, there was a woman that admitted to one of the teachers there that she had been fearful of dying. And after she completed the Bible study, she no longer was afraid. Here are some comments from ladies that have attended Second Saturday. What a blessing it brings to my life. I love the topics that help us live out our faith. It's been so great and helpful to me. Fun to meet others too. And ladies, Second Saturday is coming again this year, or this next year. It'll start in January like we normally do, and I hope that you'll mark your calendars. We'll be meeting the second Saturday in January, February, and March. And then because of Easter, we'll actually meet the third Saturday in April, but there'll be more details. We have Diane Ashman and Chris Chow are co-leading our leadership team for that. And Lori Worth is going to be our speaker. So we're very excited about that, and make sure that you come. I hope to see all of you ladies there. I do praise God for these stories and all the stories that we have and we hear all the time. In the new year, I will be transitioning to working full-time in the children's ministry, and we just had a happy birthday Jesus party on Friday, and that was pretty fun. And we had lots of kids, and the parents were super excited. They had 3 hours to themselves on a Friday night. And I got some thank yous this morning for that again. And the kids' response was fantastic. They just enjoyed themselves. It was all the way from 2-year-olds up to 5th grade. So we did divide preschool into one group and the elementary into another once we fed them pizza and cupcakes. And afterwards, one of the children said to the parent, "This was the best time ever." And I love it that the best time ever was here and within the body of Christ, and that they love coming. Here are some comments from parents recently. They, meaning our volunteers, are such a blessing to our family. Our daughter absolutely loves her Sunday school class and is often telling me things she's learned. I appreciate their work in partnering with us to disciple our daughter. Another one, thanks for all you do to love the kiddos so well at Calvary. We couldn't do that without the many volunteers that we have in our church, and we have so many that are strong followers of Jesus, and both are in our women's and children's groups, and that's what allows the Holy Spirit to transform lives. I do look forward to 2023 to see what great things God has in store for us at Longmont Calvary. And I think I went over my 2 minutes, but I had 2 ministries, so next.
Yeah, I got a stopwatch here. Yeah, I kid, but I am starting it. Hey everyone, I'm Jeff Shepard. I'm the Student Ministries Director here, so I work with 6th to 12th grade students, which is awesome. It's super fun. I love being a part of that. But for the sake of time, I'm going to just jump right into some things that me and Hannah, who also is on youth staff with me, what we've seen as being really meaningful things this year. So one of the things, I wrote down a few things here that I want to share. There's so many things that we're excited about all the time. Different Bible studies that we're doing, or book groups, or whatever we're doing. We're really excited about it. It's super fun, and we see it having an impact. But there are a few things specifically I want to mention today. So one of those things is in this past July we had a very hectic month, me and Hannah. It was just a very busy. There was a lot going on because of, and I won't go into all the details, but as a result of that, one of the things we decided to really emphasize in June is for the kids to get involved serving in our church. One of the things between students and the overall church is it's very intimidating for students to feel like they're part of the bigger body, right? They can feel maybe they don't feel like they belong sometimes or whatever it is. That's just an ongoing challenge. But we decided to emphasize that anyway. And what's been really cool is seeing, what that was like 6 months ago, seeing the way that God's used that and to really help some of these kids. I mean, there are some kids, a lot of kids who are still involved doing those same things that they had never served or volunteered anywhere outside of the youth group, and now they're continuing, like maybe on a weekly basis or just regularly being involved in helping and volunteering with the church, and they've had a great experience, and that's just an awesome win in general. But that's also awesome that our church was welcoming to them, that there's been a reception of them, that they've felt accepted and like they can be part of the church body. And to me, that's like a huge win. Anytime a student feels like they're part of the overall church body and actually feels like connected in that way, that's amazing. So that's been something that we've seen that was really awesome, and I'm really grateful for. Another thing is just is our student leaders. That's one of my favorite things about the way our student ministry is set up, is that we have student leaders, mainly high schoolers, 10th to 12th grade, who are involved in leading middle school things and things like that. It's amazing because they're at they're the most inner circle of influence, if you will, in the sense that me and Hannah tend to spend the most time with them, not because we have favorites, but because they're involved in the most things. And what's cool is seeing them step up and lead students in unique ways. I was thinking over the summer, this wasn't specifically in the youth group stuff, when we see the student leaders involved all the time in youth group stuff, but even over the summer when we were at Upon the Rock, seeing those same students who are leaders here really step up at camp. Whether it's, they're really burdened by something that one of the campers is going through. And so they're, praying in tears for these kids, caring for them, and, asking God to intervene in that way. And to me, that's a show of faith. What kind of student, I wasn't like that in high school, but the fact that there are students who are pouring their hearts out, asking God to intervene for students and being there for those students who are struggling, to me is a huge deal. And so our student leaders are always a bright point for us, is the way they're growing. We feel like they grow the fastest because they're man, they're not only just participating, they're also involved in leading things, and that's an amazing thing. So we've seen that as being a huge point of growth for those students. So I'm over time already, but those are just two areas, and I'd love to share more with you if you'd like, just of ways that God's working in the student ministries right now. It's really cool to see. So that's it in a nutshell. We love doing it, and we're going to keep loving doing student ministries. So I'm going to pass it off to whoever's next, which I think is Tim.
All right. Thank you, Kathy, for keeping me in line and for letting us go on a date night. Grace and truth exemplified right there. So over the last year, my role has really shifted significantly from being over connections, assimilation, like the lobby, and now focusing almost primarily in my pastoral role more on our missionaries, our global partners. And we send about 40 units, I don't like that word, 40 families or individuals to various parts of the world. And I'll focus even on a subset of what we do as global partners that is really, I think, the thing that I'm most excited about. So a year ago, January 1st, I was on a trip to Turkey with the leadership from Calvary Espanol, Pastor Angel and Monica, as well as IBC, which is our sister church in Lima, Peru. And what we are investing in, and really I think the most visionary part of our global partner movement, is in working alongside IBC, that's Iglesia Biblica Cristiana, it's the church in Lima, in a much more intentional and strategic way, where we are benefited by them and they benefit by our presence. There's this mutual partnership, mutual benefit, and then we do things that are even outside of the box for both of us, like consider what it would mean for us to continue to partner and invest in a place like Turkey, and for them to come into that kind of partnership where they could maybe one day in the future send their own missionaries to a place like Turkey. And so this is it's an absolutely beautiful partnership. And I out of all of my years in missions, I really haven't seen anything as unique and also as intimate and mutually beneficial. So that's a really bright spot, I think, within our global partnerships that will continue. There is a team going in February to be a part of IBC's VBS. It's essentially a VBS. And I know there's some interesting situations in Lima that we're constantly just aware of, so don't worry. Your kids will be okay. And we'll keep an eye on that. So that's really the highlight, and I know that will continue far beyond my time. Many of you know I'll be stepping down from being an associate pastor here at Calvary come March. And so it definitely is, it's definitely bittersweet because I see this as a natural movement in my life towards being a therapist and counselor here at Calvary, where I already have an office in the counseling center. So it's a movement that way. I think it's the right time. I've already been seeing clients there since May. So it's bittersweet. It really is, because I do love my work as Pastor Tim, and I also see that God is leading me in that direction. So thank you. Thank you so much. That's just a little bit about what I've been involved in this year. Thank you.
Hello, it's the video guy who's usually hiding behind the camera. It's nice to see you all. So we've done a lot of stuff in media this last year. How many of you use social media, like Facebook? How many of you use Instagram? How many of you follow the church on either of those accounts? How many of you like and share those posts? We want more of that. We want to, so, one thing that Garrett's huge on right now is that that digital footprint we have out there, that's our front door. We're reaching people who don't get to see, maybe they don't have any other impact from from God other than what we're sharing. So sharing a Bible verse or sharing a quote or, the magic moment from the week. I mean, that stuff can be huge. I actually shared a Bible verse, and I'm trust me, I've been bad about this in the past myself. But a couple months ago, I've shared one of the verses of the week. And I had a friend who goes to a different church reach out and say, "Thank you so much for sharing this. This really hit me where I'm at this week." And it just kind of helped me see that, it's beyond the people here. That's a global footprint. So I just encourage you guys to like and share and participate, comment. One of the things that we want to do is really make an impact. And I think that's one way we can do that. Some of the other things that we've kind of done in the media realm the last year, Jeff and Jamie did their Deepish Thoughts podcast. I kind of ran the back end of that while they ran the front end of all that content. And if you guys haven't listened to that, it's awesome. So I'll talk to them if you want a little bit more input onto what that's about. But it's pretty cool. We now have a place to film that or record that more in the future. That's another change, is the conference room has now become the studio, or as Joyce in the office has called it, the Cam Cave. So I'll be able to start filming promos and, just whatever message we need to send out. Maybe we'll have some new announcement videos, things, so that'll all be kind of coming. Terry's video is actually filmed in there, so you'll see that next. The other things that we've got going on, the media team, I know I've talked about that for a little while, and maybe some of you are wondering what's going on with that. Well, with Garrett coming on, we're just putting the teaching part of that on pause until after the vision launch, since I'm kind of integral with marketing that. And also working on a new website, which will launch on January 8th. So lots of big changes coming, and that's just kind of a highlight. So anyway, let's jump to Terry.
Hey guys, Terry Sellers here. Just wanted.
There we go.
Hey guys, Terry Sellers here. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes to tell you about the ministries I'm involved in here at Calvary. I'm involved in the men's ministry and also the Global Partners Ministry. With the men's ministry, I'm on the leadership team. I help plan the monthly man-to-man meetings, the barbecues we have in the summer, and also the retreats that we go on every April. This last couple of years, we've been really involved with the Hour Center, serving meals to the needy in our community. 2 years ago, we did 3 meals. This past year, we did 4. Next year, we're going to do 6. We're really excited to partner with them. There's a lot of people in the community that are in need, so we're looking out to take care of them as well. Global Partners is the other ministry I'm involved in. Coming side by side a lot of our ministries or global partners that we have here in the States and overseas. We come beside them to see what we can do for them, not only monetarily, but spiritually, with prayer and any of the kind of things that they need. I'm also going to be doing boots on the ground this next year. I'm going to go to Peru in February and hopefully Istanbul in September. So that's a little snapshot of what I do here. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Hey guys, my new role is community life. And one of the big things that I'm focused on is what are on-ramps for involvement for people. So coming out of a pandemic, lots of new people in the church. How can we just make some on-ramps for people to get involved and plugged in? One of the big ways that we're doing that is something that we're calling equip classes. Classes to just help equip our church to walk with the Lord and make an impact. So these are classes that we're going to have Sunday mornings. They're going to be a few weeks per topic on some theology topics and some ministry topics. We actually did our first one last month on neighboring, showing the love of Jesus to people in our world, like our personal world, that don't know him. And when you start something like that, we'd never done anything like this before, you wonder if anybody's going to show up, right? We had 60 people involved in this class, and it was so meaningful. It was meaningful to me. I hope it was equally meaningful to them. Just gathering, looking at scripture, sharing stories and prayer requests, and brainstorms around tables, and figuring out how we can love our neighbors better for the Lord. So we'll have more of those equip classes coming. The next one will be about just some basic theological truths of Scripture, foundational doctrines of the church. And you'll be hearing about other classes that we're offering soon. The other thing that we are working on is launching some new groups, and we'd love to see some smaller groups start in homes throughout the week. So we're just in the very early stages of envisioning that and figuring out how to launch that. But if any of you are interested in that, like I'd like to be part of that, or maybe I'd like to host or lead one of those groups, we're going to be putting those together over the course of 2023. So please talk to me if you're interested in being part of that. Thanks.
Jeffrey here. Jeffrey.
Gracias, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay. Well, por la gracia de Dios, desde enero 2021 estoy encargado del ministerio en español.
By the grace of God, since January of 2021, I've been on staff, or I've been in charge of Calvary Español.
En el 2022 encontramos la necesidad de tener una fortaleza en la academia bíblica.
In 2022, we realized what we needed was some Bible training for our people.
Encontramos que hay muchas situaciones doctrinales que debilitan los hogares.
We found that there's a lot of doctrinal issues that tend to affect the home and cause problems at home for people.
Y ha sido un año muy bueno porque nuestra iglesia tiene una convicción y este año estuvimos haciendo las doctrinas básicas de la salvación.
And it's been a great year because our church values this doctrinal training, and one of the things that we've been working through in Calvary Español has been the doctrine of salvation.
Luego hemos visto este año también cómo la comunidad de hombres se ha integrado más con Men to Men.
We've also seen our men in Calvary Español get more involved with man to man, which has been awesome.
Especialmente los domingos cuando van a Our Center.
Especially on Sundays when the men's ministry are serving with the Hour Center.
Y también hemos notado a nuestras damas relacionándose de una manera más integral con nuestra hermana Linda.
We've also seen more of a partnership and connection between the women of Calvary Español and Linda Daniels as well.
Me imagino que la comida debe estar mejor.
We think that food can always be better. We can always do a good job making food.
Pero tenemos muchos retos para el 2023.
But there are a lot of challenges that we see coming up in 2023.
Nuestros niños y jóvenes necesitan integrarse más con la comunidad en inglés.
The children and youth need to connect and integrate better into the overall church.
Y vamos a trabajar y orar mucho por eso.
And we're going to work hard and pray a lot about that.
También hemos notado que necesitamos preparar nuevos líderes y maestros.
We've also realized that one of our greatest needs is preparing new leaders and ministers.
Teachers.
Oh, and teachers.
Y continuamos animando a hermanos y hermanas a prepararse de una manera intencional en el Instituto Integridad y Sabiduría.
We've also really been encouraging our people to be involved in the Instituto of Integridad and Sabiduría, which is the Institute for Integrity and Wisdom.
Pero también queremos despertar a nuestra comunidad hispana la visión que Dios trae a la iglesia de ser un hombre y mujer con una visión más allá y para eso tenemos muchas misiones en el mundo.
We also want to continue to ignite the vision of a man and a wife coming together for the mission of the gospel.
Muchos latinos piensan que la meta es llegar a Estados Unidos. Muchos latinos pensamos que la meta es llegar a Estados Unidos.
Oh, a lot of Hispanic people think that the goal overall is just to get to the U.S.
Pensamos que encontramos el cielo aquí.
and that this is heaven. That's what we think.
Pues ustedes y yo sabemos que no.
And you guys and we know that that's not true.
Y necesitamos orar mucho para que el corazón de Dios traiga un despertar en nuestros jóvenes y en nuestros miembros para compartir el Evangelio aquí y afuera también en el resto del mundo.
And we need to be praying that God would ignite within us the desire for the gospel, to both in our members and in the students, to be really wanting to, reach the world for Christ.
Hoy día recibí a un joven, Ethan, y nos llenó a nuestra iglesia de esa pasión por el perdido.
Today we had a student, Ethan, who shared with us and encouraged us and reminded us of the need that the world has for the gospel, the world that's lost.
Y veo que nos necesitamos.
And I see that we need that encouragement.
Y yo doy gracias a Dios por esta iglesia.
And I'm very grateful for this church.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl King, turning my timer on, and I am a director of the Counseling Center. So when children are born, they're born asking two questions. They're born asking, who am I, and how do I make my way through the world and get what I need? And then they see how their parents respond to them, how other adults in their world respond to them. And they're on this journey throughout their childhood of trying to figure out who they are and how they make their way in the world. So, given that we believe that we're created in the image of God and there's male and female, this is also tweaked with men and women, how they see themselves and how they navigate the world to get what they need. Excuse me, I have to take a breath. I always get nervous talking in front of you. So many things get messed up with those messages. None of us are born whole because of the fall. So no one is coming into the world with a full deck. It just doesn't happen. None of us come into the world that way. And then we have this added complication of imperfect parents. There's never been a perfect set of parents or a perfect family or a perfect home. And so that message about who this person is gets tweaked and turned around a little bit. And add on top of that not only are we broken spiritually, but the world got broken too. There's weeds and there's disease, and our bodies don't work the way that is in a way that is perfect either. And so sometimes folks are born with sensory integration disorder, for example. Or maybe when they become 18 years or older, they find out they have bipolar disorder. And that was determined way before they were born, really. Asperger's spectrum disorder. There's all kinds of things that further complicate finding out who a person is and how they get around in the world. So that all relates to how we relate, right? Being created in the image of God, we're primarily relational beings. And sin happens interrelationally. All of it does. So what we do at the Counseling Center is we're like sleuths. People come in and there's been a crime scene. Sometimes there's been multiple crime scenes in their life. And that's a big word. And that's not always, it's a little hyperbole because it's not always a crime scene. But things happened and kids get wounded and they don't figure out who they are really well. growing up. And there's always some tweaking to be done. So we are sleuths, and we go looking through their story to see where are they in this terrain? Where are they? How did they get there? And can I walk with them to a better place? Can we work together to redefine who they are so the relationships can be better and they can be released to be more like the image of God? Not everyone we work with is a Christian. Sometimes people come in and they may have been raised in the kind of Christian home that has turned them off from God too. And so we've worked with people in the counseling center who are healing from a betrayal in a marriage. And not only is their relationship healing, but the individuals in that relationship are being transformed into different people, people who are being transformed more into the image of God. We've worked with people who are beginning to warm up to who God really is again. We're helping parents see that their children may have sensory integration disorders. And so homes can get the resources that they need so that these children can thrive and the families can thrive. So a lot of those things happen in the counseling center, and I can't confirm or deny that any of that happened this year. But that's what we do. That's what we do. And I have the privilege of working with an amazing staff alongside me. This last year, COVID being the great reshuffler as it is, 2 of our team members decided to move their practices into a different place. Lauren went to open a facility with a group of folks who just do play therapy. And then Stacy, who has been building her private practice in Loveland for the last 8 years, has decided that she wanted to concentrate fully on that. And so that's left Kevin and I alone for too long. We don't like it being that quiet over there. Tim joined us in May, and I anticipate adding at least one more person to my staff this year. And I want to add more, but I'm pretty confident that there will be one by the summer. Yeah, I think that's it for us. Thanks.
If there's one word that describes this group of people, it's passion. And we are passionate about what we get to do here at the church. We love the work we get to do. We love you, and we know that you love this staff as well. And so I just wanted to give you just a quick snapshot of each of the things that are going on. Below each of them and working alongside them is an army of people to carry out the work of the ministry. It's not just them. There are so many volunteers who are involved and working and doing amazing things here, and we get to do that all together. So can we just give them a round of applause, all of them, for their hard work this past year? As many of you know, coming up in 2023 at the beginning of the year, we're going to be launching into a new vision, new direction for our church. And I'm really excited for that time together for us to be able to spend that time all concentrated together. I know Jamie mentioned it this morning, but during the weeks of January 8th through the end of January, we'll be in one service all together at 11 o'clock, and Calvary Espanol will also be joining us for those 4 weeks together. We are one church together with them, and I went to Calvary Espanol this morning, got to hear Angel preach in Spanish and be part of their worship over there. It was a great time, and to invite them to come to those weeks with us over here. We are one church together. With that, I want to encourage you and give you a challenge, because as we go thinking about vision and direction for a church, words aren't lacking in that. But what sometimes is lacking is prayer. And I know that sometimes when we say, well, let's have a church prayer meeting, it's like the least attended meetings ever. And that should never be that way, right? Prayer should be the most vital part of our life together in our church. And so we need to, as a church, rally together to pray and ask God to lead us as we move forward. And so on January 7th, we are going to do a 24-hour prayer vigil. Yes, you heard me say 24 hours, starting at 7 a.m., on January 7th. That's easy. January 7th, 7 a.m. until 7 o'clock the next morning on that Sunday morning. And so this is the time for us to ask God to realign our hearts to his heart. and that we would be humble and that we would seek his face as a whole church. And so today you can sign up for that. Heidi will be at a table in the lobby. There she is right here. And she can answer any questions about how that's going to work and function. But if you are interested in signing up for a 1-hour time slot, you can sign up for 2 a.m. That'd be incredible. Calvary Espanol is going to start us, I think, at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, right, Pastor? They're going to start us out 7 a.m. on January 7th. But sign up for those hours, and let's just ask God to do something extraordinary in us that we've never yet experienced. If we don't pray for God to do this, he's going to do it anyway, but we can prepare our hearts for it. And we can ask him to do something that's wild and beyond what we could even imagine. And so I invite you and encourage you to participate in that prayer vigil. Sign up today, and we'll put that out in the other parts of our communication in the weeks ahead. So be encouraged. And now I'm going to ask Brad to come up and introduce some of our new members. So Brad, come on up.
Thanks, Garrett. Okay, we have some new members. And I don't know if all of them are here, but I'll read their names. Are they on a slide? Just in case. There they are. George and Jeannie Hignati. There they are. Stand up. Stand up. Keep standing. Norma Fogel. I think, Eric, you said she probably wouldn't be here today. And Dave Acuto. Keep standing, Dave. Keep standing. So we are going to read our membership covenant together. So if you accept these new members into our fellowship, please stand. Looks like it's unanimous. So let's go ahead and read the covenant together in the language which you are most comfortable with. I have trusted the Lord Jesus Christ for salvation. I have been baptized by immersion as a public testimony of my personal faith. I acknowledge the Bible as the authoritative source of what I believe and how I live as a Christian. I will contribute my time, abilities, and material goods to the work of God. I will promote biblical unity within our congregation. I affirm the doctrinal statement of Calvary Church. I will faithfully worship God, fellowship with other believers, and share Christ with non-Christians. I will allow Christ to live through me to demonstrate his grace and truth. Amen. Thank you. You can have a seat. And welcome to our new members. Please go up and give them the hand of fellowship after the meeting. And now I'm going to ask David Meeker to come up and give the financial report.
Thank you, Brad. All right, let's get to that next slide for me. This is the progression of our year. Yep, sorry. This is a progression of our year, as you can read, from January to November. And you'll see that we have a little bit of we're leading into December here, a little behind the curve where we want to be. So we're about just under 35,000 short for the year at this moment. Now, we won't know all the numbers until January when we can get all the financials in and get that all added up. But it's the budget from I'm getting tongue-tied here, so let me slow down. It's the year-to-date, the budget, the giving, and the expenses. And then if you need real details, church office has the dashboard. You can pick that up and really get down into the gristle of it. And bottom line is, I would encourage us to really search out and look into what we can do for the end of the year. And prayerfully, we'll get across that as close as we can to the where our budget was set and make it even. So don't really have anything else to bring to that. So prayerfully, we'll lean into 2023. So that's what we're here today. So I'm going to go ahead and start the next portion of this. So in the next phase of the meeting, as every year we prepare, we're going to cover the budget process for this 2023. As in every year, the budget's developed by the lead pastor and his staff. Over the previous budget for 2022, it was developed by Jamie and the staff. So looking at our new budget, this past October, FMT recommended a $1.2 million budget, and this allowed a baseline for Garrett and his staff to develop the budget that we're now going to look at. So now I'm going to have Garrett come up and go through the process that developed the budget.
You can stay right here, David.
Okay,
That's
cool.
good. We'll stay together. So, yes, as David just mentioned, in October, the financial ministry team suggested a $1.2 million budget. That's usually based on a 9-month of trailing giving. And so when we're looking at that moment there, that's what they had suggested. Then what we did as a staff is we built it from the ground up, which basically means that I asked each of them who have responsibility for part of the budget to be able to speak into what they need for the next year of ministry. And so they were very involved with that process, which was great. There are different pieces of the budget, particularly like global partners who also have input into their piece of the budget as well. And so it's not just me creating the budget, it is the staff and it is other deacon involvement, particularly with the global partners team, to then create the budget that is being presented to you. Then what we did with that was the staff, then I then presented that to the elders, and then the elders presented that to you all for consideration at the beginning of December, which is in line with our bylaws. And so it's a multiple step process. This year's budget is organized slightly different than past year's budgets. And so you can see, maybe you can see that graphic well enough. We sent that out. There are 4 main buckets to the budget. You've got personnel, outreach, ministries, and property. And so those are the 4 buckets that our whole budget of the 1.2 fits in together. And I will speak to the personnel budget, and then I'll let David speak to the other pieces of it. The personnel side is all the people that are on our staff. And so that's a very large number. You can see it's the biggest part of our budget. Oh, what do you have, Scott? Yes, sir, that's right. Yeah, Scott's maybe got a couple copies if you need to see it smaller. They've been at the welcome desk. If you need one, just raise your hand. Scott will hand some out to you if you'd like to look at it. So it's obviously the personnel piece of it is a large portion of our budget. And that includes all of our ministry staff. It includes our support staff. We have about 14 people that are on our payroll that are part of that big number that you see there. And so some of the people that were up front here are part of that, but there's also other people as well that didn't give a report today, such as Paul Faribaugh in the back, our office ladies with Joyce and with Nancy, some other like Hannah Mitchell, and some others that are in a support role for our ministries. The budget that you see presented to you for the 720 there for this upcoming year includes a worship pastor. Lord willing, at some point in this next year, we'll call a new worship pastor. That would be fantastic. It also includes what I'm calling a director of ministry operations. That is a combination role between what Gabe was doing and what an office manager was doing in the past. One role that would help oversee all kind of the backside of what we do as a church. So it's a really important role. And so those 2 are new positions that are in that budget that is, or the 720 for the year. One of the changes to the staff, there's a lot of different changes that were in that letter. One of those changes is for Jamie, and you heard him mention him taking on the pastor for community life. And so one of the things for me is I don't like generalities of titles. So we've had some of those guys called associate pastors, and I'm not telling you anything I haven't told them, but I don't like that title of associate because it doesn't tell you or me what they actually do. And so I wanted to be very crystal clear with what the responsibilities are for the staff. And so it's not just kind of, hey, here's what they do. You don't really know. But so we've moved Jamie to community life pastor. And I would describe that as all of our adult discipleship. So everything that's taken place from, he's talked about on-ramps into the life of the church, all of our adult discipleship things that happen from men's ministries, women's ministries, small groups, all those things, it's a pretty big area, fall under what we would say community life. And so as we move forward, you'll see more specific titles of our pastors and our people on staff so that it's clear to you and clear to someone else that what this person actually does. So I will stop there, and I'll hand it over to David to talk about the other 4 buckets.
There we go. Yeah, that's fine. Yep, and for these other 3 buckets, our outreach is our global partners, GP. And so you'll notice that we've had we're generally around 20%. We're actually at 18.3, but that 18.3 represents the $220,000 that is equal to last year. So we've remained static. We're not increasing, but we're not decreasing either. So also there's an allocated funds of $90,000 that will help in an emergency situation with one of our global partners. We can help them. So that stays over in that little column. And then, as I mentioned, the 20% is not part of our bylaws. It's not part of our governing documents. It's always been a goal in this church. But we're still getting there. It's been a goal this whole time. So strategically, we're funding the focus in our areas where we need to be. And later on during the question and answer, we can have Tim Hanlon come up and answer any questions specifically about that as well. So then moving into the property portion, you'll notice one big thing is there's been an increase. And so COVID kind of did a little bit of a shock to the whole facility. It put it into mothball mode. That's my term, nobody else's. But it created a little bit of problem when you have a facility and you put it on park and you don't use it as heavily. That creates some issues. And bless Paul Faraball, he's really gotten down into the nitty gritty of this building and gotten a lot of issues solved. We still have some more. We're an old building, granted. So there's maintenance, and that's what's going on. And then also, all of us in this room have to pay a utility bill. We've seen it incrementally go up. It's hit us as well here as far as the building use. And so that's also, we came out of the mothball phase. We came into full activity. So we're using more electricity, more heating, all those things that keep the building alive and running. And then Paul will be available for any questions as well at the end of this as well. And then ministries is our in-house activities reaching our community. So overall, the budget's at 6.8%. It's remained static as far as that's concerned. So it's the children's, and you can read this, but I'll read it off because I'm having a hard time reading it. Children's, youth, adults, men and women's ministries, Calvary Espanol, the Counseling Center, ministry, and vision development. So that's the end of the 4 buckets. All right.
So if we can take a moment to ask any questions you have, Brad, you can come up here too if you want to join us. And if we can't answer your question, one of the staff members can, and maybe someone else can as well. So I think there is a mic down here that we can run around. Okay, Brad will run the microphone if you have questions.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I wonder if you have broken down the ministries into kind of numbers with the staff allocation involved as well, because it's difficult, at least for me, it's difficult to see how much each ministry kind of gets without the staff component in it. So you've broken it down separately.
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying so I can answer your question appropriately. You're wondering on a more detailed level on the ministry side of the funds that are going towards actual ministry. Is that, help me understand what you're asking.
I think what you're saying, let me see if I can get it right. The staff salary for that ministry along with the ministry portion that goes to that. So like how much Jeff, his salary is plus what you have there in the ministry portion for the youth.
Yeah, we've broken it out. So it's not, so what you see on the more detailed one that's on that sheet you have in front of you, for youth ministry, I think it's that's so tiny, but it's 15.5 for youth ministry, which includes 6th through 12th grade. That's just pure ministry. That doesn't include any staffing. So any staff people that are working in those areas is included in personnel.
Sorry to dwell on this. And maybe you, maybe it's something that I just ask you later on. But for me, it would be helpful to understand how the church operates if, for example, I could see that the student ministries take up 20% of the budget. If you take into account Jeff's salary, for example, or Hannah's salary in that part, and I know that it's not all they do, but it's kind of hidden in that overall staff cost is how we are proportion-wise distributing the time for the staff members.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there's a different way we could present the number where it's like, hey, this is all the staff and also the actual ministry that's happening. And so it's just a different way of presenting it. I understand what you're saying. From an accounting side, from what Tracy Carson does for us, it's easier to separate it out so we can keep track of compensation. In 2022, it is separated out in what compensation is. So even this year, how it's broken out, we don't include the staff with the number for ministry. It's broken out separately into a compensation line and also a ministry line. But we could present it differently, and maybe you and I can and look at the number and see what exactly it is. But just the way it's presented, it's parsed out just for clarity's sake. But it may not be clear to you, I understand. But
It's just the way that I plan my budget, my husband and I, we plan our budget, we go, okay, this is a bucket that we want to put time and effort and money to, it's 20% of our overall. And so
yeah,
just wonder what
I understand.
to break down.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Under the list of ministries, I don't see open door. Is that a subcategory of one of the things that's itemized?
Yeah, it's a subcategory. So on our financial dashboard, it is referenced on a managed allocated fund. So it's not part of what we fund from the budget itself. So it's a separate entity.
Okay, so it's
themselves.
kind of like the Deacons Fund. It's extra budgetary.
Correct. Yep.
How about breadbasket?
That's the bread box.
Bread box.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. No, that's. I think it's under Global Partners as well. So you got it. Thank you, Marissa. Thanks.
Dave Daniels here. 2 questions. I'm detecting a trend. Deacon's report mentions we're at a low point concerning deacon funding. The 2022 status showed getting to the end of the month for the calendar year, we're short on giving. The 2023 budget shows increase in overall budget. Are we hoping to get an increase in giving next year? And maybe what has been the trend over the last few years on giving? My perspective is it's been maybe going down, and I just want to know what our plan is. And my other issue is we had a report from Breadbasket. What is it? Bread Box? Hey, we'll start that. Bread Box. And what we heard was a wonderful ministry that Kara's leading. What we heard is we're not even getting half of the food that we have gotten historically. And so we have less groceries to give out, and it's a vital industry. I'm just wondering, has there been a proposal to add additional monies to Bread Box? Thank you. I need your help. To make sure our priority of feeding the needy is maintained to what we're used to doing, right? And I don't think it should be all monies. It should be, we should be part of the church helping, provide groceries and that kind of thing. So thank you very much for listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Brad's going to answer a number of your questions.
Yeah, as far as the total budget, Dave, what the thinking of the elders is that, as David mentioned, we've been shut down for COVID, at least partially the last couple of years. So that's kept numbers down as far as giving is concerned. And we haven't had a lead pastor, just an interim lead pastor. And we're excited about what Garrett is bringing to the table. So we think there's going to be more money. But one of the things those of us in business have to do is, in our minds, think, okay, what if the money doesn't come in? What are we going to have to cut? And Garrett has already been thinking about that, and he's got in his mind how we could save dollars if we, as you mentioned, don't meet those numbers. So we have contingency plans in place for those type of things. One of the things on Breadbox I did want to say is, Kara here? Okay. I think they get their food from Community Food Share, and we pay one, it's ridiculously low price. Marissa, do you have any idea what that dollar amount is for a year of food?
So it's been about $1,000, but there's been a company that has stepped up and covered our regional area, so we haven't paid a due in 2 years.
Yeah, so the food comes from Community Food Share, and now instead of having 100 families, we've had to do 200. And I think that's what Kara said, that we had to split things in half, and that's why the food is smaller.
Okay. The way I took it was we're getting less food than what we've had in the past.
They might have, yeah.
I think
that's a Community Food Share.
Part of that, excuse me, Brad, I'm sorry. Part of that too is for a while it moved from a peanut butter drive. We transitioned, and so that was intentional. But I think what Kara was asking was, can we broaden that out to not just peanut butter, because that's obviously that can limit it of what just when we just say just bring peanut butter. I think we're asking to broaden that category out so we can contribute more than that, so that we can do more of what we were doing before. But there has been a dynamic that's changed, as Marissa and Brad are suggesting that what's happened. So we're dealing with that.
I found in years past, at the end of the year, there's always been a big increase, to bring up when there's a shortfall. And I just pray that is true this year as well, to bring our shortage up.
Amen.
I'm going to say this as nicely as I can. This is Jenny Desmond. It's a little discouraging to two things. One, not see the 2022 budget in comparison on the same sheet, right? So I feel a little blind looking at this from a business perspective. And the second one is to see that we're not maintaining our 20% for global partners is discouraging, but we also have to be financially responsible, so I understand that.
I think we can compare that once we have final numbers for 2022. So it's because it's built a little differently with 4 buckets as composed. I think right now in the 2022 there's maybe I think 7 or 8 different ones. It's hard to do a straight comparison since we don't have a historical way to do that. However, once the year finishes, we can certainly compare how we finished 22 with how we are moving into 2023. And we can definitely produce that. But.
Anything else? It's a lot more comfortable down here than it is up there. All right, we have a motion from the elders, which does not require a second, to approve this budget. So you have a piece of paper, hopefully, there in front of you. Will you mark if you're a member or not, and whether you accept the 2023 budget as presented? And while you're doing that, let's give a hand to the staff, the financial ministry team for all their work on the budget. And so the elders are picking up the ballots, and as they do so, they will go to the back and count those. So I have to give a council of elders report for as long as it takes for them to count.
We're going to count very carefully, so talk slow.
Yeah. And several of them haven't completed high school, so. Not you, David, you did. Any more ballots out there? All right. Well, the Council of Elders has been working very hard, as we have told you previously. We meet either virtually or in person twice a week to pray for the church. So that's usually Sunday morning at 7:30 and Wednesday morning at 7. And we pray for the church as a whole and individual members of the church, and especially focusing on any physical ailments that people have and that need to go through, plus anything we've been told during the week. And I want to remind everybody that we do have an email address for the elders. So if you want something prayed for, just send it to elders@longmontcalvary.org. And we will be more than happy to pray about it. But don't be surprised if you have an elder to come up and get an update from you on what's going on with that prayer request, because we like to hear updates too as well. So please help us with that, and we would appreciate any and all of your prayers as well for us. This is a time of exciting change, but we need to have wisdom and unity as an elder council. So one of the things we've especially been working on with Garrett is, as he talked about the vision document, we have what's called a direct policy, in which we talk about the direction that we would like to see Calvary go in the future. And even though I don't want to give away anything and take away from Garrett's sermon series and any spoilers, I'll leave that for him. The vision aligns with the direction that the elders have seen going forward. So we are very excited to see what's going to happen in the coming months and years with Calvary Church. We think there are exciting times ahead, and I don't know about you, but it is so nice to see the young families returning to Calvary, that we just love to see children here and see their parents and see the youth, that the youth room is getting filled up. The funny thing is, we meet on the third Wednesday night in the fireside room, and when we take a break to go to the restroom, we have to watch out for the dodgeball that the youth is playing in the gym, because they're having a great time in there. So we're just excited to see all that. So right now, I'd be willing to take any questions anyone has. George. Here. Oh. Thank you, Garrett.
All right, I'm George Coe. I have a couple of questions. One is, I'm really missing having a Calvary directory. I see a lot of new families coming into Calvary. I know their names, but sometimes I want to send them a card of encouragement, and I don't see it. I mean, the last directory I had was 2017. So if we can have a directory, that would be great. That's number one question. Number two is, about 3 years ago, we took our identity statement down from there, from above the curtains. And at that time, because we're doing some renovation and painting, I'm missing our identity statement as well. Oh, good. So I'm not the only one. I feel like that's great. I've traveled within the U.S., visiting friends in different states and going to their churches. I've been to international locations, going to different churches as well. And they all have some form of an identity or a vision statement. I think it's great because it reminds me personally, I'm a broken person when I step in here. It reminds me to stop judging other people because I am under the grace of God. If not for Jesus, I wouldn't be here. And our attitude is gratitude, and we pour ourselves out for others. All right, so those are the two questions I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, I know we've talked about your first question. Garrett, do you want to talk about directory?
Sure. Yeah, I hear the directory comment. I've heard it a couple different times in the past couple months. I'll just show you where I'm coming from with it. Okay. So there's full disclosure from me. Directories are fantastic, but they immediately become irrelevant. Now, here's what I mean. Someone new comes to the church, they're not in the directory. Someone leaves the church, they're in the directory. Someone passes away. And so we want to make it a living thing. And so in the new year, we are moving to a new church database called Planning Center. So that will, Lord willing, be a place that can be where you, George, or anyone can access to find the information that people want known. We're also living in the day where people maybe don't want their information out there too. So that's why the printed directory is challenging. However, if there's someone that's part of our church database that says, yes, I would like my information known, you as a user on Planning Center then can go and find information about that. So I want to make it a live document, not something that is very soon outdated. That's because we're going to be seeing new people come to our church. I pray for that, and I ask God to do that. And so I don't want it to be something that's irrelevant quickly. So that's to that there. Do you want me to say something about the other? You can.
I love the broken people being made new in Jesus, overflowing with gratitude and poured out for others. And that's a great statement. And we will be unveiling some other statements too. And again, I'm not going to take away from Garrett and his sermon series, but stay tuned, George. I think you'll like what you see and hear. I'm not saying they'll be put up there, but we'll have statements will be visible, will they not? Yeah, he hopes so. So we do have an outcome on the budget. 96% of the members voted yes. So thank you very much. That means 4% voted no. We thank you for that overwhelming support for the budget. Pray that God will honor that and we can meet those numbers. So, other questions anyone has? I'm sure the Broncos are down by 3 touchdowns by now, so you don't want to go home. Yeah, George? Microphone for the people online. Oh.
Yeah, can you just speak to, we do live in a digital age. It was really significant to me what you just said just now about protecting people's information. We probably couldn't go into it in depth here, but it would be good to hear what the church is doing about helping protect people digitally that are part of this church. Whether that's through outside consultancies, cybersecurity experts, etc. The church will be attacked in that way if it hasn't been already. So I think there's some wisdom in speaking to, if you can, steps that are being taken, or yes, it's being handled, there are people that we consult with, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, thanks, George. This is a real deal. And I know that one of our, I recently got, this happened multiple times in my ministry. I recently got impersonated by someone who seeks to take advantage of other people, and that's hurtful. And so we have to have an ability to have security and make sure things are protected and measures to do that. So I'm learning about what's already been done in place, but if there's anyone here that's got an expertise in that, in that area, I would love to hear about ways we can improve. So I'll simply leave it at that, that I'm not the expert in that. Maybe you are, and you can help us figure that out. Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, thanks, Brad reminded me that Evan is our go-to IT guy on a lot of these issues. And so I know he's helping us already figure out a lot of those things. So thanks, Evan, for what you're doing, because that's a behind-the-scenes thing, but very important in our day.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, George, I work for a credit union, so I know all about IT security. And I don't know how much the financial ministry team looks at our online giving portal, but we contract that out to a company, and we should be annually looking at their security, making sure it's tight. This new program, and I forget I hope we are looking at that to make sure that it is safe. And Evan's giving me a nod that it is safe and secure. So that is an important point. And unfortunately, George, you want to send a card to somebody. Some people don't want their information out there, and you'll have to wait till you see them at church and hand them the card. But that's just the day and age we live in, unfortunately. Anything else? My flock will tell you that I don't mind long silences. So there's somebody else back there, Garrett. Scott.
Hi. I had a question for Jamie, if he doesn't mind. Sorry. It's about your classes you're talking about with community life, the equip classes. Right now, like the previous one was during a service or flock hour. Is there a plan to have those outside of those times in case someone wants to be a part of a flock and still go to church service? So maybe a Sunday night or during the week or something?
I think we're open to different ideas. The reason we're doing it Sunday mornings right now is because there are so many who are not involved in other things on Sunday mornings, and so that's a natural on-ramp time for them, right? They're already here. But yeah, we're open to thinking about different things. We used to have Sunday evening classes. Maybe we could do that. Yeah, I think we're pretty open to trying some different stuff. So Sunday mornings for now. We'll see what happens. Yeah. The other thing is that we've asked if flocks want to join us for some of those, since they're temporary, right? They're just maybe 3-4 weeks each. And so sometimes a flock will join us for those few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you Dick Lentz, where are you, Dick? Right here, their flock joined the neighboring class, so they didn't? I saw a lot of you in there. Well, that's not good. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if there's anything that we could do for the Hoverstalls in their struggles. Carrie.
Online can hear you. Closer.
Oh, I was just wondering if there's anything that we could do for the Hoverstalls in their struggles.
Yes, prayer first and foremost. But as far as anything else is concerned, David, who's right behind you, is shaking his head no. But David, do you want to speak to that?
Glenn, thanks so much for bringing that up. It's a difficult time for the Hoverstalls, and I know many of you have seen the Caring Bridge updates, and the latest one from Tom was that they have discontinued chemotherapy treatment. Indeed, prayers, cards. Carrie has so appreciated the cards that have been sent. I know she's posted some pictures, and we've been over, and the cards are all over the piano and have meant a lot to them. And the thing that's good about those is they also match with just their availability and energy as well. Just after Christmas, all of the kids were all here, and grandkids, so you can imagine it was a big group. Everybody was here over Thanksgiving and spent some extended time. The kids have been coming in and out over the whole course of this. Seth's been here for several extended periods of time. They're planning to come back shortly after Christmas. Tom, who is interim pastoring for a church, is not getting Christmas Day off because their church is going to have services on Christmas Day. But there's also other commitments with their family. But they'll all be here after Christmas. And so in addition to praying for Tom and Carrie, and you can just imagine the difficulty of losing your spouse that Tom is facing. And Carrie has done an amazing job of being a woman of faith, reaching out and witnessing to her neighbors, to her own family, and to all of us, and how she has just been prayerfully considering how you go through this phase of life and honor God. So praying for strength and endurance for her in that as that continues. Praying for all of their family as they can get here, that everybody would stay healthy, that people would be able to have good travel mercies to get here as well, because that time is very precious to Carrie and to Tom. And I know they appreciate your prayers.
One right here, Garrett.
I would just say that over Thanksgiving, when they were feeding 23 people at meals, they really appreciated food brought in, specifically food that Carrie felt her family would enjoy eating. And so maybe from December 26th through, no? She's doing it the same way. So it's nothing that the church could get together. Okay, good, okay.
So go on Caring Bridge if you want to help out with that. I think that would be good. Anything else? All right, let me close with a word of prayer. Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the unity of the body. And Lord, we pray for your protection upon us, that we would be united moving forward. We thank you for the big ideas for 2023, and we're very excited about them. But Lord, we make the plans and you establish them. So we look forward to what you are going to do next year as we move out in faith in the direction that we feel you have us going. Please bless those, Lord, and bless us to make those course alterations where we need to, but continue to unite us and bless us, Lord, to be lights in this world, that we're lights to one another, that we're lights to the community of Longmont, that we're lights all around the world, because your Spirit is moving in and among us. Please bless the staff, Lord, as they work together to implement those things, and bless us as each and every member and attender of Calvary Church, that you would work in and through us, drawing us closer to yourself and making us better ministers of the gospel. Thank you for the work that you are doing and will do in the weeks and months ahead. We give you the honor and the glory for all that you do. In Jesus' precious name, amen. This meeting is adjourned.